Of course, I'm going to be frank and congratulate you and the project's architects and the agency for this project. It was a very good idea. 2 decades in the history of any country is a fleeting moment. But in the history of several generations, in particular the Putin generation, born in 2000 or in 1995, that could be half a lifetime. That you came up with the idea of talking about all this in such a unique way was quite extraordinary, the way I see it.
But persuading him to agree to this interview was your task.
I'm taking this opportunity to officially confirm that it was not a Kremlin project. This project was brought to the Kremlin, it was proposed to the Kremlin, and then the Kremlin submitted it to the president, and the president eventually agreed. We started the project, we launched the project, but then a perfect storm followed. The whiff of an economic crisis was in the air, and coronavirus added fuel to the fire. Then all this exploded and a global panic ensued. And the agenda changed, of course. It was not an agenda that was quite favorable for looking back and reflecting on Putin's 20 years at the helm of power. You made a very correct decision to put the brakes on showing the next episodes, to freeze the project. This is absolutely normal.
Part of the audience had the impression that our roles had been selected in advance, including the casual remarks. In other words, he had known in advance what I would be asking about, and respectively, I knew what answers I would hear.
You know even better than me that this is not so. We never prepare questions for President Putin. I think he would not like it if we tried.
Take Khodorkovsky, for instance, who was offended when Putin described him as a swindler. He said, a quasi-random question to which Putin provided a quasi-random answer. So he was implying that everything had been rehearsed beforehand, and so on and so forth. But some don't believe it.
First of all, you see,
In the purity of thoughts and intentions.
firstly, everyone watched the interview with Putin. Even the swindlers, you see. Your words, not mine. Everybody, all walks of life meticulously picked out quotes. And that's great. Perhaps something will eventually sink in. This is good, isn't it?
Это ли нехорошо? Конечно.
Your colleagues noticed that Putin seems like two different people when he talks about, say, serious and about the opposition. Which one of them is genuine?
Listen, any politician can hardly say anything warm and nice about the opposition. He may speak about them with respect, but no politician will ever talk warmly about the opposition. As for Sirius, it is his own brainchild. This brainchild is the future of Russia. It is about those who will be developing the country in the future. Naturally, he speaks about it warmly. I'm certain that each episode was closely studied in all capitals. This is possibly the best yardstick of success. So I congratulate you.
С чем я вас поздравляю.
Did you have the feeling that there was a question I shouldn't have asked? Because according to my critics, I am that 60-year-old bald interviewer who kept interrupting Putin and didn't allow the viewer to listen to what he had to say. So my question to you as his press secretary is, did he find that annoying?
You know, it's very hard to do something that would annoy the president. And even if he does get annoyed, he's always so much in control that it would be impossible to tell that something annoyed him. Never have I heard from him, even after the most heated interviews with your American or British colleagues, never have I heard him say that the interview was too aggressive or too assertive.
Скажем так, сетование на то, что интервью было чрезмерно агрессивным, напористым или еще что-то. Наоборот,
On the contrary, whoever manages to provoke Putin into a discussion gets a full-on discussion from him.
Well, in general, with your background, given your many years of professional experience with the president, were there situations when you had to really sort out stories with journalists during an interview or after one?
Well, you know, here are many funny stories with journalists. There were eminent journalists, world-famous reporters, among them those who were quite elderly. So compared to them, you can be called a young man.
Спасибо.
Well, thank you.
Those who had been waiting for this interview for a long time, they were seated and ready. Yet Putin had some important negotiations, one after the other. There were telephone conversations and so on. And these interviewers, they actually fell asleep by the time the president had arrived, and we had to wake them up. They no longer wanted an interview, nothing. There were times like this as well. There were moments when interviews were very boring. I guess those interviews felt embarrassing. At times, there were absolutely marginalized interviews when the president was asked 10 times about human rights violations in Chechnya during a raid on international terrorists there.
Like a broken record.
Yes, the questions looped like a broken record, skipping the president's answers. Well, these were embarrassing and unpleasant moments. At times, there were interviews that truly sparked the president's attention, in a positive way, and I think that he enjoyed it. Here, it seems to me that communicating with you was one of those.
Одним из таких.
The president's private life is something I failed to approach a bit closer. I haven't gotten even an inch close to it.
He explained it to you in very clear terms.
Is he married to Russia?
No, he explained to you very clearly why he never speaks about his family or his dear ones.
But he is not the only president in the world.
He is the only president in the world who has the strength to act differently, the way he deems right, and to protect his nearest and dearest the way he sees fit.
How engrossed are you in this topic?
I'm not at all. Why should I, since it has nothing to do with my job? I don't poke my nose into it. It's not my business.
Just a couple of words about Putin, the workaholic, and his entourage. Do you find it hard to keep up with his schedule?
Безусловно.
Naturally, Putin has no sense of time when it comes to work. Consequently, he has no sense of working hours or even a day off. He keeps working all the time in one way or another. I'm saying this not because I want to impress you. He is the president. When you asked him how he felt being called a tsar, he replied, "I'm not a tsar, I work every day." He is not trying to impress others. This is completely true.
Are you compiling any reviews on social networks for your boss?
Yes, certainly. He gets reviews from social networks and the internet in general, as well as reviews of TV broadcasts, because he is too pressed for time to stay seated in front of the television or read newspaper reviews. And the newspapers themselves are always at his table. He often leafs through them and keeps a close eye on the order of the day.
Он следит за повесткой дня внимательно, естественно.
Do you remember ever seeing him surf the internet? Has he ever turned it on? I get the impression when I look at the screen that can be seen during business meetings in his room in the Kremlin that the screen is absolutely blank. Not a single icon appears on the monitor.
This is not so. There are icons, but it is a classified computer. It is a closed network, not connected to the internet. There can be no internet for security reasons. The internet means 100% transparency. Given the specifics of the president's job, a PC with access to the internet on his working desk is ruled out. But at the same time, yes, he can use the internet.
What was his reaction? And if he did see some episodes, has he told you anything about them?
He has not said anything to me, but it would have been strange if the president made some comments about himself.
Well, he has not been filmed this way before.
Right, he has not been filmed this way, that's true. This project's target, it is not quite Putin's setting. It is not Putin's familiar environment, and the manner of dialogue, your manner of dialogue, is not quite Putin's manner of dialogue. But Putin remained his usual self and was very natural. He does not adjust himself to the environment or to the conversational partner. He remains his usual self.
Он остается сам собой. Я считаю, что...
I believe that given all the positive assessments and all the negative ones, this should have been done. And it was done in a timely manner. An excellent format was chosen to communicate precisely with this audience, the internet audience.
Аудитория, интернет-аудитория.
There is still much to talk about. So, despite wrapping up 20 years, there is much to come, much to discuss.
Точки нет. Есть многоточие.
Do you know how I'm going to reply to you? I'm going to answer you like this. There is no full stop, and nor can there be, because Putin is still serving as president of the Russian Federation, and he will continue to serve as president of the Russian Federation until 2024 at the earliest. And when that time comes, as he said, he'll see.